So welcome everyone. My name is Amy and this is my Valentine, Erin. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. We are going to do a, what would you call this dinner? It's a easy dinner that looks fancy, which is always a good thing.
Feezy. No.
That doesn't sound great. So this is a couple of recipes that are very quick and easy, but are delicious, and they're pretty rich, I would say. Everything here is nice and rich and luxurious, but really not difficult. So you can definitely do this at home, and I hope you'll all have fun and you'll really enjoy it. So hopefully you all know we are coming to you here from Willamette Valley Kitchen Company in Salem. And if you are not already, please follow us on Instagram. We are at Salem Cooks. If you finish cooking your dinner tonight and feel excited about it, I would love to see a picture. So don't forget to tag us. And we are also on Facebook at Willamette Valley Kitchen Co. You can go ahead and like us on there as well. Yeah, let's go ahead and get started.
Okay.
So tonight we are making a surf and turf. It is bacon wrapped seared filet mignon with a garlic herb sauteed shrimp. That will be served atop a little bed of miso creamed kale, which is just kind of a fun little play on creamed spinach, which is a classic steakhouse side dish. And so that's all. It's pretty basic. Steak, shrimp, miso creamed kale. And then of course for dessert, we're going to have a classic chocolate mousse. Chocolate mousse is one of my favorite desserts to make and to eat. And I promise you, if you're following along with me, we can do a little timing, but this mousse takes usually under 10 minutes for me to put together. So it's really easy. It has 3 ingredients. It's very simple and very fun and very delicious. So yeah, Aaron's washing his hands. I'm gonna wash my hands and we'll go ahead and get started.
What do you want me to do?
Well, I'm gonna do the shrimp, but you be prepared.
Okay, I'm prepared. Okay, so did you guys all see that Amy has this really nice red shirt on for Valentine's Day? Isn't that sweet? I have blue and orange. Okay, so yes, we were trapped out at the, go ahead, sorry. We were trapped out at the farm last night, not trapped, we went to the farm last night, and Mom gave us each a nice new red shirt for Valentine's Day. And so I put mine on immediately. And on our way home, we got a branch stuck underneath our car. And so I had to get under it and get the branch out, and I
got his shirt dirty.
I got my shirt all dirty. So here I am with my blue shirt on.
Well, that's okay, babe.
No, thanks.
All right, so we are, but I love my shirt. It fits perfectly. So we're gonna start with our shrimp here, and we're just gonna do a quick little preparation that I always like to do anytime I make shrimp, which is to, I guess it's marinating them or just seasoning them with a small amount of salt and then an even smaller amount of baking soda. And baking soda helps the shrimp have a great texture, like really a nice plump, crunchy texture when you cook them. It's just a small amount, you don't need very much. So if you're making this dish for 2, which is how the recipe is written, I just put 3 shrimp on top of each fillet. So I have 6 shrimp here in my bowl. One of them is not cleaned yet, so I was just going to show you really quick. There's the shrimp that is not yet cleaned. And how I generally clean those is if I have seafood shears, I'll use those, and they're curved, so they're a little easier. But even if you don't have seafood shears, you just have regular kitchen shears, you can hold the shrimp so the curve is facing up and just cut with your shears right into the body of the shrimp and just cut up the back. I think this is the easiest way to do this. I used to do this with a paring knife, and I have totally switched over to shears. I just think it's way easier. Often you can just squeeze the shrimp and the peel will come right off like that. And then decide whether you want the tail or not. The tail can either stay on, or you can take that last little joint and just squeeze it, and the tail shell will come right off. And I usually do this whole process over by the sink, because the last thing you want to do is, if you look where you've made the cut, there may be a noticeable vein and that's when they say deveining your shrimp, you want to get rid of that. So I'm going to go over to the shrimp now and just rinse out that little veiny part that I see, which is why I would normally do this over there, but I wanted to show you what I was doing.
You need me to do anything?
Not quite yet.
Okay.
You're doing great.
Thanks.
Very supportive. Okay, so this is a very small amount of seasoning here because we only have 6 shrimp. But normally for about a pound of this size of shrimp, which are 21 24s, I would do a half a teaspoon of salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda if I were doing a normal amount of shrimp. But I'm going to do about 1/4 that much since this is just a small amount. So I'm doing 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. Don't want them to get too salty. And then just like a pinch of baking soda. You really want a 1/16 of a teaspoon, but nobody has that. But maybe I can just use my 1/8 of a teaspoon to get about that much. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so baking soda is on there. Salt is on there. Just give them a little toss and set them aside until you want to cook them. I like to set these, I like to put the baking soda on and have it on there for at least 15 minutes, but it can stay on there for, you know, a half an hour or 45 minutes without causing any issues. So just set those aside for right now. And we are going to actually completely move away from dinner now and make our dessert first. This is the chocolate mousse recipe that I learned how to make in cooking school. I went to cooking school in Portland in 2003, and I have made lots of different chocolate mousses and liked lots of different chocolate mousses, but this one is by far the quickest and easiest. So I always like to show this to people just to show just how easy it can be. This is the mousse recipe that the cooking school taught us in order to do our final cooking exam, where we had to make this full multi-course dinner for the instructors in under an hour. And so this was like the go-to mousse recipe that you could just stick into your hour of time and have it be done really quickly and without any issue. So let's go ahead and get started on that. As I said, this is just 3 ingredients. You need a 1/4 pound of dark chocolate, either chopped up if you're using a bar or a chunk, or if you have small pieces of dark chocolate, sometimes it's sold that way. We sell it that way here in the store. Only thing I want to note is you don't want to use chocolate chips for this, because chocolate chips contain an emulsifying wax that makes it so they don't melt as nicely. So just regular, good quality dark chocolate. Here is my 1/4 pound of my chocolate pieces in this bowl. And choose a bowl that's going to be big enough so that you'll be able to fold in your egg and your whipped cream eventually. So a bigger size bowl, and go ahead and put this in the microwave. And you just want to be careful while you are microwaving your chocolate, because it can burn easily. So I like to say 30 seconds at a time, and then make sure you stir it, and we'll see how long it takes. Everyone's microwave is different, so you can't say an exact amount, but definitely check it every 30 seconds. Well, I am melting the chocolate. Erin is going to whip the cream. So I can make this mousse in under 10 minutes just by myself, but we should be able to make it really fast with 2 people.
Are we racing?
No, we're not racing.
Okay.
I'm going to put the chocolate in the microwave for 30 seconds, and Erin is going to show them your cream, babe. He has 5 ounces of heavy whipping cream in a metal bowl with a metal whisk. And the reason I mention that is because we did put this in the fridge, and that should make it whip even faster. If you didn't put yours in the fridge ahead of time, your bowl and your whip, that's okay. It just might take a few seconds longer to whip.
I'll go over here, son. On the microphone.
Okay, so I'm microwaving. And you might want to grab a fork or a little other whisk just to stir your chocolate each time as it comes out of the microwave. And Erin is whipping his cream. If you don't want to whip your cream by hand, of course it will go even faster if you whip it using a hand mixer or a stand mixer. Totally up to you, whatever you want to do.
Oh, what do you mean faster?
He is really almost done. If you can believe it, it was that fast.
A little more?
A little more. But let's show them.
Okay.
Okay, hold on one second. So I'm just giving this chocolate a stir, and it is starting to melt right in the center, but still chunky all around the edges. So I'm going to put it in for 30 more seconds. And Erin, okay, let's show them your cream. So I would say right now it is very soft peaks. If you lift it up and try to tip it over, it doesn't stand up on the whisk. It looks nice right there, but then when you try to tip it over, it's still floppy. So he's just gonna whip it a little bit more. You don't want stiff peaks because then when you fold it into the chocolate, it can get kind of chunky looking. So let's see, this might be perfect. Oh yeah, okay. So here's our cream. It doesn't stand right up in a pointy peak, but it forms a nice blob. That's a soft peak. So we'll just set that aside for a second. Keep melting our chocolate. Just make sure you stir your chocolate around each time after each 30 seconds. Even if you think, oh, it doesn't look very melted yet, it's a big shortcut to melt chocolate in the microwave, and it can very quickly burn. So that's why we're being so careful and doing such little short bursts of time. And in fact, I think mine is just going to take one more 30 seconds. So that will be a minute, 30 seconds total in this microwave, which is kind of a strong microwave. So we'll see. When you think your chocolate is getting close, you can get your egg ready. And I just like to, you don't have to whip it into any sort of state, but I just like to beat it a little bit just to kind of break it apart before I pour it into the chocolate. So I just have one egg in here that I've just mixed with a fork. All right, the chocolate bowl definitely feels warm. So I'm stirring and it's looking pretty melty. Once it looks mostly melted, I think it says there in the recipe, once it is mostly melted, stir it until it's completely melted because you want to avoid overcooking it. So just its residual heat from being in the microwave should be enough to melt it the rest of the way. So I'm just giving this a few stirs to make sure there's no chunks in there. Is anybody asking any questions that we need to talk about? Okay.
Nope.
Don't forget, if you have a question, go ahead and just use the chat function and type it in there and we will answer you right away. All right, my chocolate is melted. So now I'm going to try to get every bit of it that I can off of this whisk because I don't want to lose any. Actually, I'm going to use this whisk again. Never mind. Leave that whisk in there. You have your one egg lightly beaten. You can go ahead and pour that in and then just use that whisk to just kind of gently stir together the chocolate and the egg until it's all stirred together. When you add in your egg, the chocolate might take on a little bit of a strange look. It shouldn't like form a big clump or anything like that, but it might just get a slightly dull look and it's going to thicken up a little bit. That's fine though. All right, so we have our chocolate egg mixture and we have our whipped cream. I'm going to just go ahead and grab approximately a third of this whipped cream. I will need that. about a third, and we're gonna fold. So what we're gonna do with this first third actually is just stir it in. And this lightens the mixture.
A couple of questions.
Just 1 second, let me finish my sentence. This lightens the mixture so that you will be able to fold the other 2/3 of the cream in. Okay, go ahead.
Listen,
You're
you
doing.
paused in the middle. I didn't know you weren't done with your sentence.
I know.
Okay. All right. The first question is from Jessie. She says, Amy, who is the hottie helping you out? Oh, that was Chris. Okay. Second question. Rob is asking
Yes.
if we can substitute milk chocolate for the dark.
Okay, Rob, you can definitely substitute milk chocolate for the dark. It'll just be a lighter tasting mousse. So it'll be more milky. But yes, you can definitely substitute it. Just make sure it's not chocolate chips. That's the most important thing. Any other questions?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. All right, folks, I am gonna be right back. I just got a little chocolate on my fingers.
Where did that whisk go?
Oh, I'm sorry, babe. Okay, so currently we have 1/3 of our whipped cream stirred in. Now we're going to switch to a spatula. There you go.
Thanks.
And we're going to take another approximately third. And again, I'm not measuring thirds here. I'm just eyeballing it. And now I'm going to fold. So I put that blob of whipped cream in there, and I'm going to use my rubber spatula and go down into the center of the bowl and up the side. Very gently. That's what you want to do here. You don't want your mousse to lose its air. So just be gentle and do this folding motion over and over again. With my left hand, I'm kind of twirling the bowl each time I do that folding motion. And that just helps me to get everything evenly mixed in there. Once you see that there are still a few little swirlies of whipped cream, but it's mostly all in there, go ahead and pause and get the rest of your whipped cream. And just plop that right on top. This recipe for mousse makes a hearty 2-person portion. It makes a lot for 2 people. You'll think, oh, it's not that much, but chocolate mousse is so rich that Erin and I did eat it one evening, divided into 2, and it was kind of a lot, honestly. It was intense. So you might want to divide it into 3. Depends your thoughts on how much chocolate mousse a person should eat. Okay, anyway, again, I have my remaining third of the whipped cream on top there, and I'm just going to do that same gentle folding motion down into the center of the bowl and then up the side while your other hand is twirling the bowl in a circle. And this time you want to keep on going until the mousse looks a homogeneous color. Or in fact, if you would rather that the mousse looks like a marbled color, you could stop a few seconds early and you would have like a marbleized mousse. Totally great options both ways. So it just depends what you're into. Only thing you really don't want to do is over mix it. So once it is how you want it to look, stop folding. Here's what my mousse looks like right now. It's pretty homogeneous. I see a few little swirls of whipped cream, but generally homogeneous. And now you have a couple decisions to make. You need to decide which type of glasses or bowls or servingware you want to put it in, because I like to put it right into the dishes that I'm going to serve it in while it's still soft. It will firm up in the refrigerator. So I'm just using some little French glasses. What the heck, but you could use ramekins, or you could use champagne flutes if you want to be fancy, but it's harder to get it down in there, or wine glasses. And then if you want to put anything on the bottom, of course, you need to decide that right now. So if you wanted to try, you could chop up a few of the raspberries, if you got raspberries, and put them in the bottom of your cup. Or you could put some chocolate shavings in the bottom. Anything else that strikes your fancy that goes well with chocolate, put that in the bottom or not, whatever you like. Do we have any questions?
Jen says, I know what you can do with the leftover mousse.
So I am just going to divide this. So again, I'm dividing it up. Should I make one more cup for them to try?
No, we'll just take it all out.
Okay. I'm dividing it in two, but it's really kind of a ridiculous amount.
It's a lot of chocolate.
It's a lot of chocolate mousse. One time when I was in France, my parents are actually on here tonight, and they were kind enough to take me on a vacation with them to France a couple of years ago. And I just remember I ordered chocolate mousse one time, and it was like a whole, what would the size have been in Europe, because they don't have pints there, but it was like a canning jar. Not a huge canning jar, but a small canning jar full of chocolate mousse. It was such a huge portion, and I was just like in heaven. Okay, there's our mousse in our little cups. Erin's gonna lick the bowl. If you're not gonna eat these right away, I would just cover them with some plastic wrap, just so they don't get any kind of fridge smell. And this mousse is totally edible right now, but it's definitely soft set. So it will firm up and be kind of almost like when you scrape into it, it has like a foamy texture once it firms up. I guess it's a mousse texture. That's why it's called mousse. Yeah.
That was like pudding.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, dessert is done. Wasn't that easy? I hope you guys will really enjoy that. And now we can carry on with our dinner. We are going to start out with steaks, and Erin is the steak cooker in our family. So he's going to get you started on that.
Hi, everyone. So what we're doing tonight is filet mignon. We have been, we've tested the recipe a couple of times in the last 2 weeks. So we actually had our butcher here. Rudy's Butcher is actually attached to the store here. We had him cut us smaller fillets than maybe they normally would, but it's more towards the tail end of the fillet because we were like, okay.
We've eaten a lot of steak.
We've eaten a lot of steak. I know life's rough. You have to eat steak. So we've got these two little, just lovely little fillets, and we actually found another little chunk of meat too. We're just going to throw in the pan for fun. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the bacon slice, right? We get as thin a bacon as possible for this dish. If you get thick, it might not. It would be warm, but it might be kind of like fatty and rubbery.
Yeah, this is kind of one situation where you might actually want to purchase less expensive bacon, because the less expensive bacon tends to be really thin, and that works better for this.
So what we're going to do is take it and just take it like that and just set it on top, and then we'll just wrap it. And you want to wrap it a pretty good amount of tightness, because if it's not tight on there, what's going to happen is it's going to, as it warms, it's going to, sorry?
Do you want me to trim it?
No, I think it's fine. Just wrap it all the way around until it's completely wrapped, but you want to wrap it fairly tight. Don't break your bacon. But you're going to get it fairly tight. Otherwise, it's just going to get loose as the steak starts to contract, and then you just have floppy pieces of bacon on the steak. So
I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second.
Okay.
I'm just interrupting him because we're preparing our steak now. So you do want to get your pan heating. So I have a cast iron skillet here. It's a Finex cast iron skillet. And I'm heating it over medium high?
Sure.
Medium high heat, just so that can be heating up while Erin's preparing the steaks. And also, I am going to go turn the oven on to 400 at the same time. So I'm going to go over there and do that.
Okay, so anyway, so now you've got your steak, and it's, did I just break that thermometer? Yep. I just broke my thermometer. Sorry, babe.
Could you leave that where I put it in the future?
No, I needed it.
I know.
The sausage is being made. Anyway, so now you've got your steak with your bacon wrapped around it, and you can get a toothpick and kind of just put it at an angle right into your steak. And I like to just put it at an angle and then kind of like push it a little bit so that you get a little bit of a kind of like a little leverage inside the steak. And these ones are small enough where I think if we just do 2, we'll do the, it'll be fine. If you have bigger ones, you might want to do 3. So we'll do 1 on either side. So I've got that one there. Then I'm just going to flip it over and do kind of in the same direction like that. And then I kind of leverage it a little bit and then push it. So I'm going to do both. I'm going to do the next one a little bit quicker.
You know what, folks? The great thing about owning a cooking store is that if your partner breaks the thermometer during class, you can just take another one off the shelf. I'm going to put it here.
I'm so tired. Okay.
You're doing
So,
awesome.
Again, we're doing the same thing with the bacon, kind of wrapping it fairly tight. This bacon is starting to fray a little bit, so I might use 3 toothpicks. Feel free to use as many toothpicks as you think you need.
Just don't forget to take them out.
Can I finish my sentence?
Yeah.
Yes, don't forget to take them out. All right. I'm so sorry about your thermometer.
It's okay. Like I said, we have more.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to do 3 on that because that bacon started to, it wasn't tearing yet, but it was looking like it was kind of thin. Okay. So by now we have, so what we're looking at now is we have these steaks, and one side for me, you can see pretty cleanly, and the other side, the bacon is kind of lopping over the top. So I'm going to sear that side down first and get a nice sear on it without the bacon touching the pan quite yet. You can see the same thing on this one. You got little bits of bacon and stuff, but this side, none of that business.
That's
So
nice. Choose the pretty side.
choose the pretty side. Yeah, and then we're just gonna give them a generous amount of salt
Mm-hmm.
right on top and get them searing in the pan.
Excellent.
Yes,
I can't wait.
you're gonna have to.
So we recently purchased a house. This is very exciting for us. But our house is an older house, and it has literally no vent or fan of any kind in the kitchen. So we keep cooking steak, and it's just getting really meaty in our kitchen. We have, even though it's the middle of winter, we have all these different windows open, trying to create a cross ventilation. It's pretty funny. It's definitely the top of our list to get a fan.
Yes. So how much oil did we say we're gonna use in here?
I think
2 tablespoons. So it's not really something I would measure, but about 2 tablespoons
About
is
2
great.
tablespoons.
Especially with the filet, it's okay to have a little bit more oil because it's a dry piece of meat. And you can see probably that the pan's pretty hot already. That oil's all shimmery. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get those steaks in there.
Nice. Do you do anything in particular when you put them down in there?
When I put the steaks in the pan, I leave them a second and then I just kind of push down on them a little bit to make sure that we have some contact
Nice.
across the whole steak.
Yeah,
Is there a timer?
there can be.
Yeah, we should do 4 minutes for these.
Okay.
I think the recipe says 5 minutes, but since these are a little bit smaller, I'm going to do 4 minutes on the one side, and then we'll throw them in the oven.
4 minutes it is.
Yep. And then I like to just press down on them a little bit, maybe lift them up, get some more oil underneath there, lift them up, get some more oil underneath there. Do that. You can do it with tongs if you want, but they're nice and ice cold, so probably you won't have to do that.
So because of the nature of filet and how it is this big piece of meat that is big on one end and then gets smaller and smaller and smaller, similar to a pork tenderloin, but much bigger. As we mentioned, everyone may have slightly different shapes of filet. If you order an 8-ounce filet, depending on, from the butcher, depending on whether it was at the big end or the little end, it will be much thicker or less thick. So you're just going to have to use your best judgment of how thick your filet looks to help you decide how long to cook it. This first step where we sear it though, 4 to 5 minutes is going to give you a great sear. It's just once it goes into the oven, you'll have to use your judgment a little bit. And of course it helps to have a thermometer for sure.
Don't break your thermometer.
Don't break your thermometer.
Just a helpful hint.
Unless you have a kitchen store.
Yeah. Then feel free.
Then it's totally fine. Okay. So I think I'll just make sure we have everything prepped for our kale. I'm not going to start the kale until the meat goes in the oven, but let's just talk about prepping everything.
Can I say one thing really quick?
Yes.
So my timer is just getting to 2 minutes now. And I know that this Finex has completely even heat. So I wouldn't do this, but if I was using a pan that has less than an even heat, I might just take these steaks and rotate them 180 degrees to make sure that you're getting heat to the outside of the steak going this way and this way, right? Because the heat would be in the middle, depending on what kind of pan you're using. So I just do that anyway because I'm weird.
That's a really good tip. All right. If you have a helper there or you have a little extra time here and you're not feeling stressed out, you could start prepping your kale ingredients while the steak is cooking. So I have a large shallot that this actually might be one of those shallots where it is actually 2 shallots once you get it open, and I think it is. But that's okay, I'm probably just gonna put it all in. I like a lot of good shallot flavor in here. So get your shallot open, and then you can cut off the ends and peel it. Shallots are sometimes hard to peel, sometimes harder to peel than onions, but just do your best here. And shallots are just a really good flavor. They're kind of like they're like a fancy onion. And they add a delicious flavor to sauces. We're gonna have this miso cream sauce coating our kale. And there's gonna be lots of nice shallot in there as well. Man, this shallot is hard to peel.
Uh-oh.
I'm tempted to just like peel an extra layer of it off, you know? It's so hard to peel. All right, it's peeled. Now, of course, I have another one, but hopefully this one will be easier. Okay, so again, I'm just using 2 shallots because they were kind of together as one, but the recipe just calls for 1 large shallot. It's taking forever to peel.
That's okay.
Peel that?
Well, I was going to talk about this because the timer's about to go off.
Okay, perfect.
All right, so your steak timer, my steak timer is about to go off. Yours, if you're cooking right along, would have 1 more minute. But we haven't salted this side, right? There's the timer. So we're just going to salt that side also. You can salt it off your elbow if you don't mind making a mess in your kitchen and you want to be like Salt Bae.
I don't understand that.
I don't either. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to flip them really quick. Oh, we got a good sear on those.
Yeah.
Turn the heat off. And we're going to throw our butter in.
That's 2 tablespoons of whole butter.
And our garlic and herbs. And I'm going to pepper these now.
Okay.
I don't think we said that, but great.
He threw in 2 whole cloves of garlic. And then I think tonight we have rosemary. You can use rosemary, you can use thyme, you can use a combination. Those are like my 2 favorites for sure. Is there any other herb you would use?
I don't know. I really like, we use that poultry blend pretty often, and that's got
it has oregano.
Yeah, it's got oregano too. So great. So we've got that. Now I'm going to just throw it in the oven for another 4 minutes.
Now this is the point where you're putting your steak in the oven and you need to decide how well you want it to be cooked, for one thing. We have recommendations there for approximate amounts of time. But again, it really depends on how thick your fillets were. So if they looked really thick to you, maybe, they might take a little bit longer, or the longer end of this. If they were really big, thin ones, maybe even a little bit less than this. So just keep an eye and use your best judgment. Meanwhile, I have thinly sliced that shallot, that really big shallot. And Erin is going to take this saucepan and move it over onto the burner where the steak was and get that going for me. Put that over like medium heat and just get your pan heated up. So I have 1 large shallot, thinly sliced, and then I have 2 cloves of garlic, and you can slice these as well. I like them sliced better than minced in this. Okay. That's all ready to go. As soon as that pan feels hot, I'm going to add butter and then add in the shallot and garlic. Meanwhile, over here, I have 1 more item to chop up, which is our kale. So for this recipe, I prefer the type of kale called lacinato kale. Sometimes it's called Tuscan kale. Sometimes it's called dinosaur kale. Depends where you shop. But I think usually lacinato kale. And that's the kind that looks like this versus the curly kale. If you have the curly kale, totally fine too. I just like this kind a little bit better, we thought it had a little nicer flavor for this dish. And I left this one whole. I'm just removing the stem from the back. So that's how you do that if you haven't already done that. So now I have this pile of stemmed kale, cleaned and stemmed, and I'm just going to chop it maybe into 1-inch pieces. It doesn't need to be super finely chopped. All right, there's our kale, chopped up, ready to go. How's that pan?
I mean,
Let's just put the butter in.
let's just do it. Huh?
Okay, so I have 2 tablespoons of butter
Oh, yeah.
going into my saucepan. I'm using kind of a giant saucepan because I just didn't have, weirdly, I just didn't have quite the right size of saucepan for this dish here. You'd think I would, again, considering it's a cooking store, but I just didn't have quite the right one. So this is a little on the big side, but it's gonna work just fine. Let's get that butter melted. And then once it's mostly melted, you can add in your shallot and garlic. And again, don't have this up too high. You want it around medium heat. We don't want the shallots to get a dark brown color. We just want them to soften. Grabbing my wooden spoon here. Just give those a little toss. Oh, I will move it. I'll move it over here.
No, it's okay.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
Oh,
just
okay.
put it on the other burner. Show it off a little.
But this burner won't work, you know that, right?
Yeah. The pan's hot enough.
Okay. Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Okay, so now we've got our, I just put that little nubbin in there too. And I am going to
Aaron's gonna take the temperature here.
steak's temperature. I'm going to switch it to Fahrenheit so I don't
That's good.
misrepresent what's happening in there. Okay. This steak is at 96. This steak is at about the same.
Okay.
So I'm going to put them back in for like another minute. You want to be really careful with filet because it'll go pretty quick because there's not a whole lot of fat in it. So I'm just going to take my butter here, spoon it over the top again, get them all juicy and yummy. Do that a few times since I've got a little bit of extra time to spare in the timer. And then I'll just put them back in the oven for another 1 minute. I think it'll be good.
Nice. All right. So those are going back in the oven for just a little bit longer. Meanwhile, I am stirring this shallot mixture. And I can see everything starting to soften up. My rings of shallot have softened and loosened up a little bit. I'm gonna let those saute for like 1 more minute, and then we will add in our chopped kale and a little bit of soy sauce. I use a teaspoon of soy sauce, but honestly, I don't usually even measure it, and I'm not going to measure it tonight, but it's around a teaspoon, just a little bit of flavor there. And we will cook that together just until the kale is wilted down, but is not overcooked. You want it to still be bright green, but just softened and wilted. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and add in this kale. It is handy to have a big pot for this step because you don't have to worry about trying to cram all your kale into a too small of a pot. Okay, kale in, little drizzle of approximately a teaspoon of soy sauce. And just give that a stir. It shouldn't take very long to wilt, maybe about a minute. After the kale is wilted, we're gonna add in, I'm using dry vermouth tonight. You could also use your favorite dry white wine. But after that kale is wilted, we're gonna add in about a 1/4 cup of our dry vermouth.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to say these steaks are done. So you can see them there.
They look beautiful.
They look, oh, there we go. All seared and yummy.
Nice.
And then I'm just going to take them out, put them on a plate. We've got our extra little nub in there.
And in the recipe, it says to baste them at this.
Oh, it does?
Yes.
Well, this is how I'm going to baste them.
Yeah, I'm totally
Like
with you because
this.
I know they're pretty much done.
Yeah.
So if you're following along, we are not doing this last final step of basting over the stovetop, just because we have these little baby steaks and they're done. They're perfectly cooked. However, if your steaks are a little bigger, you can take them out of the oven and do an additional step of basting them one more time with that delicious garlic herb butter. Erin just wanted to get them out of the pan so they didn't overcook. Okay, my kale is wilted, and I am going to add in a 1/4 cup of dry vermouth. That's 4 tablespoons. That's why I'm using the spoon that I just happen to have there. Give that another good stir. You can turn your heat up a little bit at this point and let that alcohol evaporate. So it shouldn't take too long as you have your heat up on nice medium high to high. For if you look in the bottom of this pan, that liquid you just added should be almost gone. It should be boiling away and it should be just about gone. So that looks good. I can see a little bit of liquid in the bottom, but not very much left. Now we're going to grab a 1/2 cup of heavy cream, and then I have a tablespoon of miso paste. I'm going to show them the miso on this camera. And I'm going to add both of those in once the vermouth is evaporated.
On this camera?
Yeah. Erin's showing you the miso paste we happen to have, but there are about a gazillion types of miso paste available at various stores. So
I think we like this color though the best for this, right?
I do like that. You'll see that package says shiro miso, which is white miso,
Quote unquote.
which is not white. It's like tan, but it's the lightest colored one. And I do like that for this, but I think that it would be just great with red miso as well, which is another popular one that you see. Okay, so I have the cream in here. I have the miso, and the miso is kind of a sticky paste, you know, so give it a good stir. Make sure you don't have that blob of miso hiding somewhere. Make sure it's incorporated into the cream sauce. And then I'm just going to kind of regulate the heat. you want your cream to definitely thicken, but you don't want it to completely disappear, obviously. So kind of look in there, see what your cream's doing. It should be simmering away. All right, it's looking good. So let that cook with the cream in there for maybe about 2 minutes until it looks nice and thick. And this dish is basically done. And,
Oh,
yep.
I didn't wash it though.
That's good. Perfect. I won't even see anything. All right. And Aaron has moved the steaks onto that blue plate to rest, as you saw. And he poured the majority of that garlic butter out of the pan.
And give it a little bit.
Just leaving a little bit, and we're going to use that to cook our shrimp. He actually poured a little more than he thought, so he just poured a little bit of the butter back into the pan, but that's perfect. That's what we're looking for. Okay, I think this cream sauce is looking how I like, so I'm just going to take this pan off the heat. Do you want this on here?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. With your kale, just grab a little spoon and taste, especially taste the cream. And it may not need salt at all because the miso is salty, but taste it, see if it needs any salt, and you can also add a little black pepper if you like. Meanwhile, Aaron is going to quickly finish our shrimp.
Here we go. So with shrimp, I like to personally like to place them in one at a time, but we're not going to do that, I think, this time. But I want to get them all so they have some contact with the pan, right? And then we're going to cook them for like a minute, and then flip them, and then cook them for another minute, and then they're done. We don't want them to get completely blasted with the heat.
I tasted my miso cream and I added just a tiny pinch of salt. I thought it tasted almost perfect, but I just wanted a little bit more. And then I added some black pepper in there, and you can just let that sit here and rest until we're ready to plate. Okay, should I put the plates in the oven? I think I should.
Sure.
We have 2 dinner plates here, and just to be extra fancy since it's Valentine's Day, I'm gonna go stick them in the oven for 30 seconds since the oven is warm.
All right. I keep on forgetting that handle is hot because it was in the oven, but
Oh, poor babe.
handle's hot. I know, for me. Okay, so I'm gonna just look at these. I think that they're looking pretty good. I like to take each one and swirl it around in that butter a little bit, and then I'll flip it. You know, you want like the orange color to happen, but you don't need that like super pinky color to happen, right? I'm just trying to get them cooked through without being erasers. Nobody likes a shrimp eraser. I mean, that's not true. I guess some people like shrimp erasers. Reminds me of the Caribbean.
If there was an eraser shaped like a shrimp, that would be cute.
Oh yeah, but then it would be shaped like a overcooked shrimp. Right?
And you wouldn't eat it.
No, you wouldn't eat it. Not every time. Anyway. All right.
All right.
So by the time you're ready,
We're about ready here.
those are ready.
We have our miso cream kale. Those guys are done. Okay.
They're ready to be plated when you are ready for them.
Feel free to grab them out of there.
Oh no, that's all right. There's no rush.
All right. I think we are ready to plate our lovely dinner for 2 here. So I'm going to grab a pair of tongs because what I want to do is grab some of the miso kale, but I want to give it a little squeeze so that the sauce is staying in the pan and you're just getting vegetables. And then we're going to use the sauce as the sauce for our plate.
Oh, these shrimps are looking pretty good. I'm going to turn them off and just let them kind of sit in that warm pan until Amy's ready for them.
So I am taking the kale, squeezing it a little bit, and then just making a nice bed of kale in the center of each plate. Kale cooks down a lot, of course, so you might be thinking, oh, this is a whole head of kale is too much for 2 people, but it really isn't. It's just right. I'm trying
You're doing
not
great.
to get,
Oh.
thank you. I'm trying not to get sauce all over the side of the plate, but I always end up getting a little bit, but that's okay. We will wipe it off once everything's ready to go here. Okay, so I have my 2 nice beds of kale. We're going to, don't forget to remove your toothpicks. Don't want to serve anyone a toothpick. Okay, we're going to take our beautiful fillet and put that right on top of the kale. I'm going to grab me a little wiper.
Yes, I do.
And then you can arrange your shrimp, 3 per person. Hopefully they will fit. Oh, those are so hot. Hopefully they will sit right on top of your fillet. These fillets are small, so it's tricky. I'm trying to get them on there. There we go. Just kind of nestle them together. I think I said something kind of funny or sarcastic on the on the recipe, which is if you are that type of person, you can take those 2 garlic cloves and put them on top.
I'm that type of person.
I am too. If you feel comfortable with your dinner date eating a clove of garlic, go for it.
Babe, I'm so comfortable.
Me too. I'm very comfortable. Okay, and then grab your kale pot, which should have nice cream in it. That's just delicious. And you can kind of do a swirl all around the outside of the plate here. If you want to, you can do a little drizzle over the top too. This is really yummy cream.
I'm gonna do something here.
What do you want to do?
I'm just gonna freestyle here for a second.
No.
Yep.
What does that mean?
That means
Ern's doing something.
I'm
I
just
don't know
gonna
what he's
try
doing.
and
Oh,
show
yeah.
them
That's nice.
what the plate looks like without making anybody
Seasick.
seasick. Yeah.
That looks very pretty. Okay. I think that's about it here, folks.
Why can't I get the?
It's so hard to aim it. I know.
Yeah.
It's like, how do I make it?
Now we're just looking at everybody. Okay.
Here, did you get it?
Can I just take it out of this?
Yes, you can. Sorry, folks, we're being such dorks right now. It's really hard to aim this camera when it's
Okay.
on the tripod. There we go.
There we go. That's what your food will end up looking like, hopefully.
So we have our delicious bacon wrapped seared fillets with garlic herb sauteed shrimp atop miso creamed kale. And we are ready to eat here. I hope you are at home as well. And then don't forget, after dinner, you have your chocolate mousse ready to go in the fridge. I'm not going to plate the chocolate mousse right now because we're not going to eat it right now, but you can garnish it with whipped cream if you like, a little extra whipped cream. You could chop up some, or just put whole raspberries, or it's pretty to cut raspberries in half actually. They look really nice if you cut them in half and just take a second. You could shave a little chocolate on top of your mousse if you like to do that. So lots of options.
I like to eat the rosemary out of the pan with the steak.
Oh yeah.
Don't eat the big twig, but the leaves are all crispy and yummy.
And you can, if you wanted to, you could sprinkle 1 or 2 of those on this as well. Whatever, if that tastes good to you, that's great. Okay, I think we are just about done here.
Time to eat.
Yeah, it's time to eat. Let's have a hug.
That was great, Amy. We're going to sit down and eat too. Thank you.
Excellent.
Happy Valentine's
Happy
Day.
Valentine's Day, everyone.